皆さんこんにちは、ケントです。Japanese is represented using three main writing forms: hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Hiragana and katakana are phonetic writing systems that usually represent a one-to-one relationship between one letter and one mora, which is kind of like what syllables are in English. They're a small unit of sound that Japanese can be separated into. To learn more about mora, check out my video on haikus. The way you learn haiku is probably wrong. Anyway, kanji is the third and most complicated writing form that is directly borrowed from Chinese. It literally means Han characters, Chinese characters. Whereas hiragana and katakana are based on 46 base characters respectively, there are literally tens and thousands of kanji. Which is the most difficult? Let's find out. There are many ways to measure how difficult a kanji is. One way that's widely used to rank them is stroke count. For example, the number 1, ichi, is represented with this, which only takes one stroke. Compared to that, the word for tree, ki, is represented with this, which takes 4 strokes. People like to say, the more strokes, the harder the kanji is. Now, if we're simply talking about stroke counts, the most difficult kanji might be Taito. This kanji has 84 strokes, and it looks pretty complicated. But what does more strokes really mean? Some people say the more strokes, it's harder to memorize. To a certain degree, this is true. But let's take a look at this kanji. As we can see, there are many repeated elements. These 3 are the same, and these 3 are the same. These are respectively the kanji for cloud and dragon. Cloud and dragon are kanji that many people know how to write. So if you are Japanese or you know how to write some kanji, this big complicated kanji is not particularly difficult to remember. So no, I wouldn't say that more strokes necessarily means it's more difficult. The one thing we can be certain of is that with more strokes, the longer it takes to write by hand. So in that sense, this kanji is the most difficult. But to me, something taking longer isn't the only thing that makes something more difficult. So what are the other ways that a kanji can get more difficult? First thing I can think of is memorability. A more difficult kanji is probably harder to memorize and write. So we should look for kanji that, unlike Taito, have few, if any, repeating parts. Second, and this is totally up for debate, but a more difficult kanji, by my definition, is one that causes you the most difficulty. What I mean is that the most difficult kanji should actually be the one that you'll run into at a decent frequency in daily life. Like, if we were talking about the most dangerous animal, a shark is super dangerous, but the likelihood of you running into one, unless you're a tuna fish, probably not that high. The most dangerous animal in terms of how many people are killed because of them is mosquitoes. They spread disease, you've probably run into thousands already in your life, and it kills 1 million people per year. Sharks, on the other hand, kill less than 10 per year. Just like you're more likely to be affected by a mosquito than a shark, I think the criteria to determine the most difficult kanji should take into consideration how likely it is for you to run into them and experience its difficulty. Now that I decided to look for kanji that have not so many repeating parts and kanji that people use a lot, I ran into a translation quirk of sorts. When I said I'm going to look for a kanji that is most difficult, you probably thought that I meant that I will look for one kanji character. The problem is, Japanese lacks the convention of plural and singular in the sense that English understands it. That is, there isn't a S that you can put at the end of a noun and determine plurality. When I say kanji in Japanese, it means Chinese character and Chinese characters at the same time. When I go look up most difficult kanji in Japanese, it gives me words that are made up of 2 kanji characters or more. So bear that in mind. Anyway, I did some looking around the internet and found 3 words that Japanese people think are difficult to write while also being decently common in everyday use. The first word is the kanji for bara, or rose. This is made up of two characters that look like this. A lot of Japanese people will be able to read what this says. But, including myself, we find it really hard to write. Another kanji that many blogs brought up was this one, ringo, or apple. And the third kanji word is this one, yuutsu, or melancholy, which has the distinction of making you slightly feel what it means while you try to memorize it, especially that second one. What's common about these kanji is that these are common words, but these are kanji characters that don't get used in other words that much at all. So Japanese people never really have the opportunity or incentive to learn how to write these. But I wanted to be a little bit more scientific. Then I ran into this list of kanji called Joyo Kanji. Joyo Kanji literally means regular use Chinese characters, and it's a guide made official by the Japanese Ministry of Education. These are 2,136 kanji that are considered a baseline that all Japanese people should know how to use. The Japanese Constitution, for example, is written using only kanji that is listed on this list. And if you complete your education from grade 1 through 12 in Japan, you will learn all 2,136. In a sense, this is a decent list of kanji that describes what Japanese people use all the time. I then sorted these kanji in order of strike count. And number 1 was, that's right, the second half of the word, yuutsu. So in conclusion, we didn't really get to find the end-all be-all most difficult kanji. But after me pouring through a dozen blogs, consulting the official list of Japanese kanji characters defined by the Ministry of Education to be standard use, and still respecting the difficulty that comes with having a higher stroke count, I think it's safe to say that utsu is one of the hardest kanji in the Japanese language. At the very least, if you ever meet a Japanese person and write this kanji for them, which is a weird situation to be honest, they will probably recognize the kanji and recognize how hard it is to write. It's time for the artist feature. Today I'm going to feature Riki Kubota, who goes by Kubota. He's a rapper and producer from LA and is a first-generation Japanese American who loves making tunes influenced by hip-hop and pop. Check this out.
Yeah, I got to get myself above a certain standard. I can stand myself, but I can act a certain stature. Picture, capture, check the factors. Truth is I feel lonely, but I hide with laughter. Leave the mask, cause I'm not one at being a good actor, yeah. I went and found myself a girl, one who I could trust, one who meant the whole world. And when I did, I ruined it, scared that I would lose it. Trying to keep a few steps ahead first, forgot the lessons I learned and...
That's pretty awesome, right? Check out his music on Spotify and give him a follow on Instagram. The links are in the description below. Also, if you're an artist and you would like your art to be featured in my videos, there's a Google form in the description below. Fill it out and I'll love to feature your art. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions on what kind of content I should explore, please leave a comment below. I also have a Twitter and an Instagram. If you would like to follow me there, that'll be great. I'll be updating the channel with new videos every week. If you want to check those out, hit that subscribe button, man. Thank you.